Most individuals don't forget what they study because of poor recall. They forget because they never genuinely grasped it to begin with. Learning isn't about gathering facts. It's about converting information into practical comprehension. And here's something hardly anyone notices. You don't keep what you simply scan. You keep what you actively work through. The human brain isn't a warehouse. It's a network of associations. The mind only preserves what evolves into logic, behavior, or revelation. That's why speeding through pages, viewing clips at double rate, or jotting notes endlessly doesn't ensure real absorption. The key resides in what follows next. Between the instant you take in a concept and the instant it shapes who you become lies a space, and that space is where true learning occurs. The developer of this approach names it the equilibrium between intake and cognitive processing. Intake is when you gather. Processing is when you reshape. One missing the other wastes effort. Most people remain trapped in intake, hooked on hoarding material, yet never constructing an inner framework to hold it. The brain craves breaks. It craves integration. It craves usage. Anything you fail to convert into practice, your mind discards as unimportant. So the genuine question becomes, are you truly learning or merely stockpiling? The technique you're about to uncover, Pacer, exists specifically to address this issue, to convert reading and study into enduring retention, clear thinking, and authentic expertise. Pacer is a cognitive framework that turns any data into lasting wisdom. It categorizes what you study into 5 forms of material, and each form demands a distinct type of handling. It's like possessing 5 gateways in your consciousness, each unlocked by its own unique key. The first letter, P, represents procedural practical skills. The know-how of execution. It's knowledge that calls for doing, not just reading. If you aim to master something skill-oriented, improved writing, playing a musical instrument, public speaking, the brain only logs it once the body performs it. The instruction is straightforward: acquire through action, repeat, drill, refine. The brain only flags something as significant when effort and motion occur. The second letter, A, represents analogous, understanding via comparison. Here rests one of the strongest cognitive tools available. Every vague notion requires a tangible picture to endure. The mind doesn't hold on to random statements. It holds on to striking parallels. So whenever fresh information arrives, craft a comparison. Ask yourself, what does this resemble, or what picture captures this inside my head? When you construct your own comparisons, you compel the brain to link the unfamiliar with the known, and that linkage is where knowledge turns permanent. The third letter, C, represents conceptual, the principles, foundations, and connections among thoughts. This is the sort of knowledge that determines the depth of your insight. Memorization comes easily. True grasp comes seldom. To command concepts, you must chart them, construct mental pathways among notions. Picture information as a chart, not a checklist. When the brain sees how elements interlink, it permanently retains the entirety. The fourth letter, E, represents evidence, the support behind a notion, statistics, cases, tests, figures, realities. This category of information demands structure and revisiting. The most frequent error is undervaluing the strength of returning. The brain erases by nature. It isn't built to retain everything. That's why you must train it what deserves keeping. The method is straightforward. Organize your notes accessibly. Employ digital journals, flashcards, Notion, whatever tool, and revisit them regularly. Spaced repetition serves as memory's lifeblood. Revisiting signals the brain, this counts. Preserve it. The fifth letter is R for reference, rapid access information. These are the specifics you don't need constantly in mind but must keep reachable. Dates, titles, equations, passages. The brain operates optimally when you avoid overloading its internal capacity. The solution is to offload. Create systems for retrieval, not memorization. Employ flashcards, intelligent notes, or compact index cards with spaced repetition. The objective isn't knowing every detail. It's knowing where to locate every detail when required. And this is where the Pacer method completes its cycle. It isn't merely a reading strategy. It's a framework for processing. It demonstrates that every category of information requires different treatment because the brain doesn't handle everything uniformly. Practical skills demand repetition. Conceptual knowledge demands organization. Evidence demands revisiting. Reference knowledge demands external systems. That's what distinguishes those who consume volumes yet forget from those who consume modestly yet always remember. Here's the truth. Learning isn't about committing phrases to memory. It's about rebuilding the reasoning behind those phrases. Comprehension equals strength. When you genuinely comprehend, you don't need to force recall. It becomes a natural outcome of lucidity. Most people attempt to store sentences while overlooking the storage of significance. And significance is what the brain acknowledges as authentic. Want to retain forever? Then cease striving to retain. Strive to comprehend. Ask yourself, why does this function? How could I use this today? What shifts if I modify this element? These questions establish mental anchors. They bridge theory to lived experience. And that bridge is what makes the brain embed information profoundly. The mind doesn't absorb through rote repetition. It absorbs through involvement. Every time you question, articulate, and rephrase knowledge in your own terms, you're literally forging fresh neural pathways. That's why the greatest error is approaching study as a bystander. You must become an active creator of knowledge. The brain is a dynamic system, not a passive one. It needs to construct, not simply consume. So when you complete studying something, shut the material and describe it, even to an empty space. Speak aloud what you just absorbed as though instructing another person. And observe the easier you can articulate it, the stronger your comprehension truly runs. Genuine learning emerges when you can transform something intricate into something straightforward, smooth, and instinctive. That's mastery. The mind doesn't seek fullness. It seeks clarity. Now consider this. What if learning were an experiment? Not something to memorize, but something to uncover. The mind delights in testing, experimenting, failing, refining, retrying. That's how it secures things. When you transform learning into a mental workshop, tedium vanishes. You start engaging with the journey, feeling authentic wonder. Don't study merely to succeed. Study to discover what occurs when you fail. Every error carries valuable data, a chart revealing what remains incomplete. And the more you experiment, the more your brain grasps the structure. That's how revelation emerges. That instant when everything suddenly aligns, the brain functions through trial, not compliance. So abandon learning like a robot and begin learning like a discoverer. Pose what if, why, how, formulate assumptions, sketch possibilities, envision situations. When you do, you activate the mind's creative force, the very force great thinkers employ to comprehend existence. Learning ceases being a duty and transforms into vibrant curiosity. Here's the truth. You don't learn through repetition. You learn through recreation by reflecting, blending, modifying, fusing concepts until knowledge integrates into your identity. That's how you never forget. Because what you build, the mind claims as its own. Everything in existence interconnects, and your mind learns through interconnection too. Authentic learning occurs when you perceive the links between notions. When you recognize that an economic rule can illuminate human conduct, that a physics lesson can clarify life itself, that a musical idea can show how the brain balances logic and feeling. The mind doesn't operate in separate compartments. It functions like a living network. Every new fragment of knowledge must attach to something already familiar. And that attachment is what secures learning. That's why mind maps succeed. They convert thinking into visible architecture. And the more links you forge, the more robust your memory network grows. It's as though the brain declares, I've encountered this previously, but now I see it from a fresh perspective. The truth isn't memorization, it's connection. When encountering fresh material, ask yourself, where does this belong within what I already grasp? And by responding, you convert data into insight. The mind cherishes patterns. And each time you identify one, it constructs a neural pathway. That's why certain individuals learn with both velocity and profundity. They don't gather facts. They unite realms. Learning isn't about piling knowledge. It's about interlacing significance. The more links you establish, the more vibrant your intelligence grows. There exists a quiet power that separates exceptional thinkers from others. The bravery to declare, I don't know. Because only when you confess ignorance does your mind open to genuine learning. Pretending knowledge is like bolting a door from within. Nothing fresh can enter. The mind that seeks to seem intelligent is the same mind that hinders its own development. But the mind that welcomes emptiness flourishes. When you accept not understanding something, you ignite the most potent driver of learning, curiosity. It propels the brain to pursue links, test hypotheses, and reconstruct comprehension. The inquisitive mind rejects prepackaged responses. It yearns to understand why. And it's within that pursuit that learning becomes lasting. Mistakes aren't adversaries, they're workshops. Every uncertainty is a fresh neural route awaiting creation. That's why authentic learners don't fear appearing foolish. They fear only ceasing to inquire. The more you permit yourself ignorance, the more room you create for discovery. The mind that demands instant comprehension grows shallow. The one that welcomes uncertainty grows profound. To know little, yet deeply, surpasses knowing much, yet grasping nothing. When you embrace the identity of a lifelong student, the entire universe becomes your learning space, and the delight of discovery fuels your mind. Now pay close attention. Here's the truth that converts learning into permanence. If you wish to retain everything you study, absorbing alone isn't sufficient. You must reconstruct. Knowledge resembles a muscle. It strengthens when you exercise it. So every time you encounter something new, rephrase it in simple terms as though instructing someone completely unfamiliar. When you do, you compel your mind to restructure its understanding, and that's when knowledge becomes solid. There exists no true retention without articulation. The mind remembers most vividly what it must recreate. That's why those who teach absorb the most. When you articulate, your mind forges new pathways, converts information into concepts and concepts into comprehension. And each time you perform this cycle, the brain declares, this is important. Retain this. Deliberate repetition is learning's foundation. But here's the vital element. Avoid mechanical repetition. Repeat with intention. Re-experience the feeling of what you studied. Visualize it, link it, question it, and especially employ it. Knowledge left unused fades away. You want retention. Apply what you've studied, discuss it, write about it, test it in reality. The mind comprehends this. What you utilize, it preserves. What you neglect, it removes. Forgetting isn't defeat, it's selection. The brain is far too wise to retain what you don't prize. So demonstrate what holds value. Practice, share, integrate. With each application, knowledge ceases being mere data and becomes part of your essence. Now listen carefully, because this is where it all unites. Learning isn't about accumulation. It's about transformation. Genuine mastery starts when what you know begins altering how you exist. When knowledge stops being something you possess and becomes something that directs you. Remember, the mind is fertile soil, but it only flourishes when you tend what you sow. Every notion you comprehend, every principle you implement, every intentional repetition waters a seed with awareness. And the outcome arrives not by magic. It arrives through persistence. The difference between those who forget and those who master lies in one simple choice: to continue practicing, even when it seems you already understand. Because authentic learning isn't linear, it's spiral. You revisit the same place but with greater depth. So the next time you study something, don't ask, how can I memorize this? Ask, how can I embody this? Because what you embody, you never forget. When knowledge turns into action, the brain acknowledges it as part of your identity. And that's how you retain everything, not through force, but through becoming. You become what you comprehend, and you comprehend what you practice. And should you ever question yourself, return to the fundamentals. Simplify, articulate, question, apply. That's the cycle. That's the key to remembering everything you read forever. If this video stirs something within you, then the moment to act is now. Write in the comments today, I rewire my mind to never forget what I learn. Write it as a declaration, as a mental commitment. Because when you write, the brain treats it as resolve and begins working for you. Drop your like immediately, because that signals YouTube you crave more content that elevates your consciousness. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe now. Here, every video advances your awakening. Here, you'll learn to command your mind, retain everything you read, and transform knowledge into genuine strength. Your next level of awareness starts today.